Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Quickscope. It's another Thursday and another day of esports betting here at SBR. I'm really happy to be joined by the usuals, of course, Adam Lockbooth and Guillermo Neutral Dehan with me today. We're going to talk a little bit about everything. We've got a lot going on in the esports betting world. We have the League of Legends World Championship, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with, but we also have Epicenter going on. So there's a lot of CS this week going on, and a lot that we want to talk about, especially going into the month of November, because we will have a lot of tournaments in that month as well. There is IM Chicago and ECS and a bunch of other tournaments really that we can talk about. But today is Epicenter CS. We, of course, have League of Legends World Championship, as I said. And we'll have a little surprise StarCraft betting. If you guys are into it, make sure you stick with us for the entirety of the show, because towards the end we'll have a guest, Dreamos, who's always with us in chat. Will be hopping on and telling us a little bit about WCS and how the StarCraft betting panorama looks like. So let's start with greetings. Let's start talking a little bit about how we are doing and how our weekend looked like for esports betting. Adam, give us the rundown on how you're doing.
Great. I was just before the show started, hit a winner on Fragsters against Valiance on Train. It was looking like they were going to throw away the match, but they covered easily, and that always makes me happy going into a show talking about CSGO betting. So yeah, good today, and looking forward to the weekend.
Hell yeah. Really nice. And thank you everyone who's joining so far. Thank you if you are here for esports betting, or if you're here just, to find out what picks to go on. We will be talking bets later today, but let's go into a little rundown of how Guillermo's weekend is looking. It's Thursday again, so there's tons of esports starting to happen, but also a lot of esports that were happening in the weekend before. So how are you, man? How's it going for you?
CSGO is doing fine up till like 2 days ago. I've been on a bit of a losing streak, but you win some, you lose some. No, but Epicenter hasn't really been good for me, but I mean, I can't really think about it too much because, it happens. But League has been quite fine. I mean, the quarters were really profitable for me. When C9 hit, I had some smaller bets, and I had a bet on Fnatic minus 1.5. So League has been going great. CS was going really good, but hasn't been that great lately. But I'm sure we'll get back on top.
Hell yeah, that's what it is. You got times where you're just not doing that great, and then you get back. We just need League of Legends to come around the corner once again, because it's been a while without any competition, or at least that's how it feels like for Worlds when we are jumping into semi-finals. So really excited about what we have to talk about today here. Let's start with a little bit about Epicenter and what we've seen in these groups, and moving on to the later stages of the tournament. Let's just go over general thoughts about the whole tournament, and any possible teams to look at, or bets if you have any. Adam, what are you on for Epicenter?
Well, right now actually Liquid's looking good to take the 2-0 against Avant-Garde. Got them at 1.7 yesterday, and that's what's expected. I mean, it's not a great price or anything, but I think it's going to hit enough to make it a profitable bet. But overall at Epicenter, it's a tournament in Moscow, and we're seeing the CIS teams performing well. Na'Vi and Hellraisers are both through to the playoffs. Avant-Garde will also be through. So I think that they're hungry. Again, we talk about this with home crowds. Na'Vi lost in the finals of the major. They didn't look good in New York, but here they've got a chance to perform in front of their home crowd, and they're the favorites at this point, I would say. Not necessarily the better than Liquid, but I think they've got that feeling that this is their tournament, and Liquid's looking good as well. I think they will probably, they should be in the final. They'll likely play FaZe or NIP, but I think Liquid's also poised to make a run here. But overall, not too many surprises. Ants got knocked out in the groups. Swole Patrol got knocked out in the groups. I mean, Swole was definitely going to get knocked out, I think. But Ents had a shot, and even though they didn't upset Hellraisers, well, they were actually the favorites there. Even though they didn't beat Hellraisers, I wouldn't say that's a surprising loss. They lost in the third map. So overall, steady as she goes. I really just been taking shots here or there, not getting too heavily invested in this tournament.
Yeah, it seems like Epicenter is, I just think the team selection is probably not that hype, right? We've got a lot of the teams that are like doing really, really well, just not here. But the teams that have been looking a little shaky, I think have been looking real good and decent at Epicenter. So I don't know, it's a little bit of both. I'm not too invested in this tournament either, but it's definitely, a betting outlet for a lot of us because there are a lot of encounters that might be a little lopsided. Or at least that's what it looked like in the beginning. What about you, Neutral? What are your thoughts on the tournament so far? What teams are you looking into? Is maybe Hellraisers a team? Like, what are your thoughts on them? Talk a little bit about, what you're thinking could be a good, betting option moving forward.
Well, like Locke said, he also said that first off, Team Liquid should make the finals. I agree with that. Just that I think that Na'Vi will also easily get to the finals, and I know that's a bit of a, Na'Vi, you shouldn't trust them, but it's kind of normal now to do this, but they've had a boot camp, like every team does before a big tournament, but no, they've had a boot camp, and they seem a bit more, I don't know, although their wins weren't that convincing, I still think that they're looking good, and I think that Na'Vi, on home ground, should be the favorites here. And like you mentioned, Hellraisers is one of those upset teams because I personally hate them because when I bet on them, they lose. When I bet against them, they win. Actually, it's gone on again. Like
Tell us how you really feel,
cursed.
Neutral. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, no, it's actually been going on for like 6 matches now. But no, Hellraisers has done really well. And I think that the big factor in this is that their star player, Waxic, who's had visa issues, pardon me, just sometimes he just doesn't show up. He's finally showed up in his potential. He's had an 1.28 HLTV rating, which is really high if you don't know. And I remember the match against, I don't know who, but he had a match maybe against Ents where he just went off. He got like so many kills and he just destroyed Ents, I think, just single-handedly. And I mean, if you're HR, you need Waxic and Issa to show up, and currently they're top 2 performers for HR, and Waxic is just looking in top form. So I can see HR still being an underdog in a lot of matches that will come. I mean, they're playing Avangard, right? And I mean, HR against Avangard is a really 50-50 matchup in my opinion. So I can easily see HR taking it and going to semis, which is pretty good for them. And like Locke said as well, HR is a CIS team, so it's kind of a home ground thing, So, like you said, HR is one of those teams that you can watch who might upset, but then again, I probably curse them now because I compliment them, so I don't know. It will probably happen again.
Isn't that the truth? It happens to all of us, right? Holy cow. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Waxic too. I think Hellraisers can actually do very well, but as you said in the beginning, Na'Vi and TL are looking real solid. So I don't really know what can happen anymore. I just know that, betting live, probably Hellraisers is a team that you want to, start watching their matches live and look at how they're performing, what their performance is on that specific map that they're playing, and maybe play some live bets because Hellraisers is that one team that can upset for sure.
I want to say something more. I like kind of forgot it. That's the thing with HR. They have some maps on which they're really solid. And although they sometimes lack on it, like Overpass is really hit or miss for them. But when they hit, they go off. You saw it against Na'Vi. They hit their shots on Overpass and they destroyed Na'Vi on Overpass. Same goes for Dust 2 in my opinion. And that's normal, because in Dust 2 an Opera has his way. And Waxic on Dust 2 is just insane. Issa as well. I remember at the major, Issa against G2 had like 40 frags. Issa goes off on that map, Waxic plays well, so I feel with HR you have to watch the maps and just live bet on them on those maps.
Yep, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Definitely a team that you want to look at live and just pay attention to what maps they're on and what their form is. Because as Guillermo just said, they've got these players that really show up when it matters, or rather when the team and the map favors them. and again, it's just they've got some upset potential right there. All right, guys, let's maybe move on. Unless Adam, do you have anything else to add before we move on to league? Do you want to talk a little bit extra about Epicenter?
Well, I mean, we should probably just quickly touch on the matches that we're going to see this weekend, right?
Yeah.
So, FaZe lost to Na'Vi today, so they'll be playing likely NIP, which was the third team to come out of Group B. So, a FaZe NIP semifinal. Really, it's a tale of two inconsistent teams the last couple months.
Right.
NIP looked good at the major, but since then they've just been, looking really bad online. I would say 3 out of every 4 matches. They narrowly beat Swole Patrol on Nuke. I mean, that's the state that they're in. Nuke used to be a good NIP map, and I think it was a 16-14 final, and NIP got both pistols. It was something crazy close. And Swole Patrol is it's not even in the top 30. They're playing, MDL teams. They're not a comparable team to the quality that NIP should be playing at. And
Right.
so even though FaZe, they look really bad against Na'Vi on Overpass, I still think they'll manage to get by NIP. But depending on the price we see them at, it might not be worth taking them. Maybe taking them to win 2-1, or maybe NIP to win a map. It all depends the number we see. But I don't have tremendous faith in either of these teams, so I'm not sure how much I want to, risk with the bankroll. And then we'll also see Avantgarde. I mean, Liquid's going to roll over Avantgarde here on map 2. So we'll see Avantgarde playing Hellraisers. And, that's a CIS matchup. I would say the firepower advantage is actually with Avantgarde, but both of these teams have weak T sides. Avantgarde have an onliner reputation a bit. They're able to sort of have this puggy play style and just enter bomb sites one at a time and hit headshots. But on land, CT sides are generally stronger for teams. They're more focused. They use the utility better. And so Avantgarde could really struggle against HR. I'm liking an over 2.5 there. I think HR could take Overpass or Dust against Avantgarde, and Avantgarde could take a Mirage or a Cash against Hellraisers. So I'm leaning towards the over 2.5 maps in that match. But Liquid and Na'Vi in the semifinals on Sunday morning, they're really the 2 strongest teams at the moment in this tournament. So it's going to take some really juicy odds to even contemplate betting against them, I think.
True. All right. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that we need to understand about a lot of these tournaments where it seems like the teams are or should be performing way better than they are. And I think this happens a lot also because, as I said earlier, and this is my personal opinion, there aren't a lot of really super high tier teams here. There are teams that are highly rated but haven't been performing, and then some teams again Swole Patrol and stuff like that shouldn't be doing all that well here, but they are coming up and surprising teams like NIP. It just speaks about the inconsistency of some of these teams.
Yeah.
I do want to add though that although Swole Patrol obviously aren't that great of a team, I feel like they can be great underdogs for the future because they do have a lot of potential. I mean, I feel like they have good players, and obviously Swag, everyone knows he has a lot of potential. Marky has been known to have potential. Cooper has been surprising me. He's a good opera in my opinion. So in the future events like they showed against NIP on Nuke, I think that we shouldn't underestimate Swole Patrol as much as we are doing right now. Although obviously NIP should just duo them, right? It's NIP. It's not some NA team, but still, Swole Patrol do have a decent lineup. But you're right in the fact that NIP should beat them easily. And one thing I want to add on the Avantgarde against HR matchup, I think that a possible over 2.5 maps would be good here because I feel like the map pools kind of differ. As in, Avantgarde are great on maps such as Dust, Cash, Mirage, and HR is also good on Dust, but I don't think that HR is that good on Mirage, so I can easily see Mirage pick from Avantgarde and an Overpass pick or something from HR, and then we have 2 maps already passed that will probably be 1-on-1.
Yeah, agree.
Sounds about right. Avantgarde Hellraiser is a team that, or a team, not a team, but a match that I want to watch for sure. It's I think that'll be clutch, and over 2.5 does sound like a great bet on that. All right, guys. So, Epicenter, as I said, kind of like a lopsided tournament. Not one of my favorites, but one that we can definitely bet on for these specific matches, as we were saying. Tons of CS coming next month, though. So do keep, your eyes open for these. Because
oh yeah, CS is like tennis. There's a tournament or match 24/7, 365 days a year. If you're a degenerate, there's always something you can find in CSGO. I like to stick to the bigger, more reputable prize pools and tourneys, just because you get the better quality, and I find it's more reliable. But yeah, you can always find a CSGO card to get some action on.
Hey, that is true. There's some South American CS, some Australian CS. There's always something.
Yeah.
But next month, as I said, is going to be big, I think, for the bigger tournaments as well, because, Blast Pro and a bunch of real, big tournaments are happening. Let's move on.
Summit as well,
Go ahead.
Because that's like, Summit is like, for people don't know, Summit is like a tournament which isn't really normal. It's more of a laid-back tournament where there's a couch of people casting the matchups. But there are just players walking around casting as well. It's known as laid-back tournament, and I already have placed one bet that's like really high odds. So I think I'll tell you guys. Well, next week will it have started next week?
I know what you're on.
It will start next week. So I have an outright bet as well, which I will probably post on Twitter. But it's high odds, and I mean I can't wait for the tournament because it's more just underdogs playing each other. So I like those tournaments where you can just pick out the underdogs against the other underdogs.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Summit line of tournaments is actually real fun for a bunch of different games, not only just CS. But let's move on quickly, just because we are in a bit of a crunch, because we have tons to talk about. Let's go into League of Legends, because the World Championship is happening. Semi-finals are around the corner. And, we're here. We are in the moment in time where there is only one Asian team in semifinals, and it's a Chinese team.
Oh.
The Korean teams are out. There's an NA team in semifinals. There's 2 EU teams. I have no clue what's going on, guys. What I do know is that I think G2 will make it through. They're at 3.25 on the money line against IG. I think the metagame favors them. I think they individually outclass most of the players on the other side of the rift.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're not a G2 believer, if you at home are not a G2 believer, you should at least consider the over 4.5 maps and the G2 plus 1.5. Because those are also at great odds, which I'm going to check. And meanwhile I do that, maybe Neutral can give us his thoughts on this G2 versus IG match.
No bias, though, right? You guys are EU NA fanboys, so no bias.
Hey, listen, no. I am a Latin America North fan, but we are out since like day 4 of Worlds or something like that. So I'm completely unbiased.
I mean, okay, so I should be biased here since I'm a G2 fan in terms of CSGO. So, I mean, I like the org. And I'm EU, but I'm going to try to speak in an unbiased way here. So, I do agree that over 4.5 is a great line here, considering the odds. But I don't think G2 will win. And I don't fully agree with the opinion that G2 outclasses IG. I mean, I think that Perks is kind of as good as Rookie. I think that that IG outclasses G2 in the jungle matchup because Jankos has been inting at times.
True.
I think that Wonder is good, but I mean, we all know how good IG's top laners can be, And then the bot lane, I think it's a kind of weird one because actually Yarnan and Wadid did really well against Uzi and Ming. I mean, I was like, if G2 want to win, they have to at least just hold on, They have to play for late, let Perks carry, let Wonder carry, and they did that really well. But I mean, IG has Jackie Love, and Jackie Love has like one of the best KDAs in this entire tournament. And I mean, overall, I'd say that IG is just a bit better than G2. Like, no, not a bit. I'd say that they're considerably better. But then again, like Saga said, the odds on G2 is kind of insane, but because we've seen that this G2 style has worked against Chinese teams, and yeah, I mean it can work again. I see it going over 4 maps, so I like that bet. And overall, I'd say that the matchups do kind of favor IG, but still, it's going to be a fun matchup for sure. I feel like this is the most weird matchup to call for sure, because we
Yeah.
don't know if Bergs is going to show up again and dominate, you know?
And that is really where I think, the game is going to sort of be defined is on whether Perks can, carry a lot of his team on his back and go forward. Again, I am a G2 believer, as I said. I think I do agree with you, though, that in the jungle matchup, IG is heavily favored. I think Jankos has been extremely polarizing. Sometimes he's good. Sometimes he's like, terrible. I just don't want to say anything offensive, but just terrible. And then some other times he's performing well. So honestly, I think it's a matter of, taking a look at how they're performing. But the way that they took out RNG just really made me a believer that this is a tournament for the underdogs, and that IG isn't really just a team that can go ahead and completely stomp G2. I think the over 4.5 maps is the good one. And just before I go into those odds, G2 plus 1.5, which is my other bet, is at 1.83, so, not that bad. I am not on the G2 money line, but I do think those are good odds. So if you, and maybe I'll still do it, like a small stake at 3.25 or something, not bad at all. In terms of the over-under for the total maps, the over 4.5 is at 3.25. So that's also really, really good for G2 IG, because I do think that is quite possible, whether IG win or not. I think G2 can take it the distance.
Yeah.
So that,
Sure.
Those are honestly my thoughts.
My last thing I want to say is that, I feel like when we're discussing IG, I kind of tend to forget that this IG just beat KT, right? I mean, they beat KT, and that's no easy thing to do. KT was my favorite to win.
Yeah.
And they should have won 3-1. They lost the base race by 1 auto attack, and then they still won 3-2. So, I mean, they should have won 3-0, I think. It was map 3. I don't know. Anyhow, they should have won earlier, but if you're looking at these replays, you can see that the Shy has been so good, and Ning is just a better jungler than Jankos, but then again, 4.5 maps, good bet. I feel like this is the tougher match to call from the two.
Absolutely. Rookie didn't buy for one game, so I'll just put that in the table.
I was going to say, one market I was looking at, and I want to get your guys' opinion on, was Invictus Gaming versus the Field to win Worlds. And it was the Field at 1.8. Versus Invictus at 1.9 and Bet365. If you're thinking that G2 could upset here, and that's just the semifinal, wouldn't that be a quality value bet in your eyes?
Yeah. I think it's a quality line since let's just say that the likely things happen. So IG win and Fnatic win. That match is almost a 50-50 to me.
Right. Exactly.
So I'd say that those odds are 50-50. I mean, we've seen Fnatic win 2 out of 3 maps already against IG. So some might even argue that they're the favorite. Plus, I feel like IG did kind of crumble in map 3 and 4 against KT. But still, yeah, I think that's a quality line, because we can still see G2 winning, but we can also easily see Fnatic winning. And I think that line is mostly just there because it's just people not wanting to believe that EU can actually win Worlds for us.
Well, and that's saying another team will win 6 maps before IG wins 6 maps. That's really what you're saying. And based on sort of what I was reading about, there's an article from Esports yesterday about the meta at Worlds and why this isn't just a random isolated upset tournament. That the current meta is helping the European teams against what they previously learned from Korean league in past years, and based off of that, this seems like an ideal patch for European teams. So if that's the case, that 1.8 looks even more lucrative for even a C9 randomly maybe to upset. So I'm just saying, I thought based on what you guys were saying, what I was reading, that sort of fading the last non-EU NA team might be a good way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's mostly just people not wanting to believe the Western hype and just thinking an Eastern team has to win.
Well,
right.
I mean, going back to what I said on the opener, I do think that the metagame favors the European team. So I actually do agree with that article that you read. I haven't read it myself, but I agree with the premise, and I do agree that this isn't just like a random upset tournament. I do think the metagame. I think Riot find out a way to really balance Western teams, and that's like meme worthy in a way, but also actually true in my opinion at least. Moving quickly into the next matchup though, C9 versus Fnatic. I think Fnatic -1.5 is actually quite good here at 2 odds. I don't see Cloud9 moving forward. Like, I actually don't think that they can win more than a single game in this match. And the reason why, honestly, I'll completely ignore the fact that they're, a team full of rookies. And I'll just talk about the fact that they seem to crumble against early aggression. And that is what Fnatic is all about this tournament. And I think that's where they really excel. And in some cases, they have to they have to play the late game. But I think against Cloud9, they're going to go full throttle and just demolish them early. I don't see Cloud9 moving forward. And at those odds, Fnatic -1.5 seems real good for me. I think we just lost Guillermo for a little bit, so he might be coming back soon.
Well, let's talk about how I took a shot with Fnatic at 13 odds to win Worlds. And I promised on last week's show that I would buy their jersey for my first ever esports jersey if they win. So now I'm gonna have to explain to my girlfriend why I'm investing in esports clothing if it comes in. But 13, I mean, it'll pay for itself.
Listen,
so I'm okay with that.
If she says anything, just tell her you've got a friend in Costa Rica that has a collection with over 25 esports jerseys, and that you're not in as bad as he is. Okay?
All right, I will.
And that she doesn't have to feel bad because there's someone out there who's got it worse. Yeah, I mean, Fnatic to win Worlds is looking so damn hype right now, because even if the likely things happen, as Guillermo said, Fnatic makes it through. And then also does IG in what could have been a fifth game against G2. Remember, Fnatic is the team that completely demolished G2 in the EU LCS. They won real free the splits for EU LCS. It just seemed very convincing. At this point, with the competition out there, I think Fnatic to win is actually very plausible, and at 13 odds, I just can't be more jealous right now.
Yeah. I feel, it's again, that was also, I think, just the idea of an Eastern team has to win this. Like, if you're looking at, because look at CSGO tournaments, right? If you want to have 13 odds on a team winning a tournament, you have to place it at the start of the tournament at first. And it has to be like a real underdog. And I feel like Fnatic has been nowhere near the price of 13 odds, especially when players started, because they had the good bracket. Plus, they've been looking really good. So I feel like 13 odds is insane. And also to add on to the bets, I agree with the -1.5. I don't know, my Skype dropped, so I didn't hear everything. But my main point is honestly that C9, when they lose the early game, and the team against them just snowballs. And Fnatic is known to play really good early game and snowball from that. The only map they lost against EDG was map 1, and they lost it because they lost level 1 and they lost the early game, So I feel like Sneaky, if people don't know, Sneaky is really bad in lane. I remember in the middle of summer split, he had the worst stats from any ADC at 15 minutes. In the NALCS. So, like I said, I think that Fnatic will take it at least 3-1. Mostly because of the early game. And I feel like Licorice has been really good for C9. But so has Bwipo and Soas are better in my opinion. And Broxa will outplay Sven. So...
Agreed. All right, guys, we are nearing the end of today's esports betting show. Thank you so much for everyone joining, 18 of you watching right now, but also a lot of people talking on chat. We really appreciate every single one of you. David Hutton, Vandy Candy, perfect rotation. Every single one of you guys that will be watching later the VOD. We appreciate you guys as well, so make sure you do, tune in next Thursday. But don't go yet, because we do have Our boy Dreamus coming in very soon. Production will get him here quite soon, so he can talk a little bit about WCS, a little bit about StarCraft betting, and of course, Adam. Maybe while Dreamus is being called in and brought on board, maybe Adam can give us a little bit about general thoughts about the tournament, explaining what it's about, and what expectations should we have for WCS.
So BlizzCon is the Blizzard convention. It's the annual celebration of all the games that Blizzard creates, esports and otherwise, and it's the biggest StarCraft tournament every year. It's sort of like the world's tournament to League for StarCraft. And StarCraft has gone through some fluctuation since Dota and League games came out with their popularity in esports. But every year BlizzCon is just a phenomenal show. The 16 best players in the world attending, and they've had to earn those points over the past year through other tournament victories. I'll just briefly touch on the format. So this weekend is just the group stages. There's 4 groups, 2 players will move on to the playoffs, which are next weekend from each group. And the clear-cut favorites this year, based on their performances at every tournament, are Maru, the Korean Terran, and Cyril out of Finland. He plays for ENCE. And everybody is hyped for this one because is this finally the BlizzCon where a non-Korean is going to take the title? And I know Dreamus, he's Swedish. He's got his own feelings on who the true number one is, but a player that wins BlizzCon is the best player that year. It's just how it works. It doesn't matter how many other of the smaller GSL tournaments or even online tournaments players win. This is the I guess you'd say the World Cup or World Championship of StarCraft. So it's definitely the best tournament to bet on. It's the most exciting. I guess I'm glad Dreamus is going to be sharing his stuff. He plays a lot of StarCraft. He knows the meta very well inside and out. So he's just going to be sharing one pick this week. But get in touch with myself or him on Twitter for more of the picks. And next week we're going to have more of like a 20-minute segment talking about the tournament.
Sounds good. Hey, I want to be the first one to welcome Dreamus to the show. Thank you so much for joining, man. It's real good to have you here. So, just take it away with your pick and take it away with, just general thoughts about the tournament as well.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me on the show. It's awesome. BlizzCon, biggest tournament of the year in StarCraft. It's going to be awesome. For once, we're actually having a foreigner as one of the top dogs to take it home. So that's awesome. I think from the group stage, one of the bets I've been looking at is Neeb to take home the series versus Neeb because they've had close series both this year and last year on bigger tournaments. This year it was in the last season of GSL, and last year it was in the GSL versus the World. And this year on GSL, he was actually supposed to take that series, in my opinion. He was up 2-1. He actually tied in the 4th game, which very rarely happens in StarCraft. And he was the one favored in that game, so TY got a bit lucky. The series ended 4-2 after that to TY, but yeah, Neeb was really close and taking that 4-2. He's at 3.25 odds last time I checked right now to take it versus TY in the opening match, but I also like him in general to make it out of groups, even though Maru, the favorite Korean, is in the same group. I do still favor, or maybe not favor him over Neeb, but I think they're pretty even in PvT right now, to be honest. But yeah, TY is the one he's definitely gonna win over, in my opinion, at least.
As far as for those people who don't know StarCraft, there's 3 races. There's Protoss, Zerg, and Terran, and each race has its own strength against the other ones, and players sometimes are better against other races including, like a Protoss versus a Protoss, than they would be a Protoss versus a Terran. So, Dreamus, in the current meta, do you have a sense of, one race being a little bit OP, or do you think it's fairly even right now?
I would say the balance right now is pretty even in StarCraft. It's probably in one of the better states it's been in. Then obviously pros are gonna have a lot of opinions and so on, and those there's always like one race that is stronger according to someone. But yeah, I think it's pretty good right now. Maybe that in PvT that Protoss is a bit stronger in the late game, like once you get into the game. But yeah, that you can argue that Terran is stronger in the mid game and early game now. So yeah, there's both way of seeing it.
That's great. So your one pick as far as the opening round of matches is Neeb to upset TY at 3.5. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. It started out at 375, but I think it dropped a bit now. But yeah,
Okay.
that's my favorite of the matches to bet on, just because the odds are so good for a match that, in my opinion, should be like even odds on. So yeah.
And the group stages, they're all best of 3 matches. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's yourself format. So yeah, best of 3 and then elimination match and winner match and then decider match. So, yeah.
So I mean, the way the format works out, it allows, so Neeb could beat TY and then play against Maru, lose, and TY could play Lambo, and then Neeb and TY could have to meet again. So even if, let's say, Neeb loses the opening match and then gets given, the same or juicier odds, it doesn't mean he can't upset TY in the second best of 3 later this weekend. So that's something to keep in mind with the formatting here. Players adjust, where they get cheesed in one game, or they make one fatal mistake. They might correct it, look at the demo, and adjust for the rematch. So at 3.5, 3.75, 4.0 odds, Neeb only needs to win one of those head-to-head matches with TY for that to be a value pick. And that's, a great thing with formats for these tournaments is, players coming in that are hot get to keep that form throughout the tournament, and other players don't have time to adjust because it's all in 1 week as opposed to over a whole 6-month season like you see in traditional sports. So I'm going to tail you on that one, Dreamus. I really like the price and the reasons you said. So yeah, looking forward to this tournament.
Yeah.
I
had 2 questions that I kind of want to ask, one for Dreamus and one for Locke. So first of Dreamus, isn't it what's the normal best of the normal format for StarCraft? Is it like best of 3s as well, or is it like best of 5s normally? Because I remember, like you said, it was like 4-2 last time they played. So are like BO7s the normal standard, or?
So the standard is usually. Yeah, sorry. The standards are usually to have best of 3s in group stages, but then when you get into playoffs in round of 8s, round of 16s, it goes up to best of 5s and then best of 7s, usually in the semis and finals.
Oh, okay. Okay, and then lastly to Locke, I don't know if you don't. I mean, if you don't know, it's fine. But so Dreamus gives Neeb 50% chance. So what would you say? At which odds would you rate Neeb here?
Ooh, I would give him less, but that's because I don't think I like EU NA StarCraft players as much as Dreamus. I would probably put it. I would probably put it in the 35 to 40% range, but I haven't capped any of these games yet. So, and Dreamus took this shot. I think it was a few days ago. He eyeballed it, and he's already taken a few. I think he's posted on Twitter and in our Discord. So I'm going to defer to him on this. But I am definitely looking forward to taking some shots on some other guys. And, that's not to say you can't find value on a favorite either. Value doesn't have to be on a big 3.5 underdog. A favorite to win in a 3-0 or 2-0, 3-0 sweep is still can be the right pick. And you can get it for a nice price at plus odds too. So we're going to be working hard on this one all weekend long. I know Dreamus will. And then next week we'll have a much bigger segment. So hopefully we come back with some winners.
I mean, yeah. I mean, still, right? I mean, 35% to 40%, 3.5 odds is still really plus, like, potential value is really good there. So I'd still say I'm tailing the bet. I'm gonna look if I can watch, and if I can watch, I'm gonna try to understand what's gonna happen, but I probably won't, So it's gonna be fun.
It's not that difficult to pick up, but like I found League and Dota a lot harder to understand as far as what's happening in the game. StarCraft, it's you basically play until your opponent surrenders or all their units are destroyed. That's sort of how it goes. So you have a blue team and a red team, and one destroys the other. It's fairly straightforward that way. I will say that there's very few players, and I think Dreamers will agree with this, there's very few players from any region that cannot upset in a best of 3 here. I would look at some players like maybe Special. I think he's, a big underdog that will have a hard time getting out of groups. Maybe Hero Marine will also struggle. Haas, these are a few of the players that would really have to play out of their minds to make it out of groups. But players like Neeb, Serral, and then some of the Koreans, they have so much experience. They play against each other so often. And many of the non-Koreans live in Korea playing against each other all the time. So the odds are definitely a little bit more skewed towards the Koreans. And that's why I think this shot on Neeb is a good one.
That sounds real good, guys. Hey, Dreamos, thank you so much for being here, and thank you everyone who's watching as well. Make sure you do follow Dreamos as well. His handle is Dreamos TAW, if I'm not mistaken, but you can hit us up on Discord as well and just find him there and ask him yourself or about any other StarCraft picks because, again, BlizzCon is going to be starting, and it's going to be there for a while. So we have a lot to talk about first. Or a lot of StarCraft to talk about in the next couple of days and weeks. We are, of course, reaching the end of Quickscope once again. So thank you for being here and for tuning in. Make sure you do tune in next time. And I want to just close things out with a random fact, because while you guys were talking about StarCraft, an esport that I don't know much about, other than, of course, that I have to back Special because he's my boy. He I work for Predators Esports now. He's in my team, so I gotta back him up. But I found out that Bet365 has actually Street Fighter Canada Cup outrights right now, which is really weird. You get like 3 times a year where you can actually bet Street Fighter, which is one of my favorite games ever, and the only one that I really just play very competitively. So random picks I'm gonna give you guys. Outright for Street Fighter V Canada Cup, closing tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Tokido at 5 odds, Fujimura at 7 odds, and Problem X, who just won Evo, at 11 odds. Those 3
sorry.
Small takes on those.
JCUK guy, right?
How do you spell that?
Tokido.
Hey, post it on Twitter. Post it on Twitter later, and we'll definitely take a look, mate.
Yeah, I will. But if you guys wanted to look at it right now, he is the favorite to win, of course, and then the second one favored is Fujimura, as I said, at 7 odds. But the third one really just calls my attention. Problem X, again, he just won Evo, which is one of the biggest Street Fighter tournaments ever. He plays a broken character, and he's at 11 odds. So real good, odds right there. I mean, I'll do more research and post this on Twitter, but, just random. I just wanted to ramble about that before we go out.
Oh, that's good. I mean, we're an esports show. We're not exclusive CSGO, even though that's a lot of what we cover. And I was also going to say, that reminded me, Saga, before we sign off here, the first Dota major of the pro circuit is on right now. And
yes.
I've just been taking shots on ties all week, only up like a unit and a half. It's been kind of break even. But the playoffs are starting this weekend, so I'll also be tweeting out picks for that.
That is awesome, guys. So yeah, do follow these guys for Dota as well, for a bunch of different esports. I won't be here for the next 2 shows, guys. I will be in Korea for the League of Legends World Championship Finals, where I'm going to watch Fnatic versus G2, I believe, battling out for
We'll get Dreamers to wear a TSM shirt next week, and we won't even notice you're gone.
But yeah, feel free to tune anyways, because these guys will be here, and maybe a third person will be here to replace me. Who knows? Thank you so much, guys. This has been another show of Quickscope once again. My guys, Adam, Neutral, and Dreamers were here today. And next time, we'll have some more surprises. So I'll, be talking to you guys, and let's just meet another Thursday for esports betting.